What's going on, everyone? Cole Johnson, FullEffectFitness.com. Today, I am doing the second episode in this series of where I am explaining how I'm programming for my next strength training program. If you didn't go and see the first episode, or if you haven't seen that one yet, I highly suggest you do so. I'll leave a little tag up here so you can go ahead and check that out. It'll be super beneficial just to kind of let you guys know what I'm doing with this, and so you can get the information in the most logical order possible. But in that first episode, we laid the foundation for my programming. Or for my program for that for the strength training program. Today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be actually filling in the specifics here in this white space here. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. We're going to be filling in the different exercises, the sets and reps, percentage of 1 rep maxes, reps in reserve, all that good stuff. So what we'll be doing is I'll be going over this first 8 weeks here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and then this will be just strength specific. I'll probably actually end up extending this series past 4 episodes because there's quite a bit to go over. This would probably end up being like an hour-long video if we didn't do that. So before we get started, I'm just going to make one quick switch. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make all of these hybrids strength specific, and I'm doing this because I want to start off and be able to focus on strength, and then I realize that when I start doing Olympic lifting anyway, it's going to be super light, so it won't get in the way really of my strength training. If anything, it'll help work on speed a little bit more, and then it'll provide a nice smooth transition into the next portion of this program where we go into Olympic lifting. So then this 4 weeks here, weeks 9 to 12 will be hybrid, so strength training with like 1 Olympic lifting session in the week. And this will make much more sense than doing a hybrid and then 4 weeks of no Olympic lifting and then going back into Olympic lifting. This is actually how I was originally going to do it, but I decided to do it differently, but I'm going to go back to the original way. So we got that fixed, so what I'll be doing in this episode is I'm going to be programming for these first 8 weeks here that I just selected. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we have the heavy upper day, so that first exercise needs to be something we're training maximally with a lot of heavy weights. This is going to be the bench press. So we're going to be using the bench press because that's that primary compound exercise. Activates a large amount of muscle groups. And those muscle groups are working together, so we can produce a lot of force, easily progressively overload. It's just a really good meat and potatoes foundational strength builder. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to be basing this off of the conjugate program a bit. So I'm going to be starting off with a super maximal set, one set of somewhere between 1 and 3 reps, probably some sort of variation of the exercise as well. And then I'll do is I'll do my back off work. That'll still be pretty heavy between sets between 1 and 5 reps. And we'll see how we're going to do that as we program this. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to think about what I want that first variation exercise to be. And what it is going to be is it's going to be a triple with a pause bench. So we're going to go pause bench press. We're going to go pause bench press, okay? And then we'll put in the rep range thereafter. And then after that, so we got the triple with the pause bench press. So now we're going to go into just a standard bench press. So all that back off work is going to be the standard bench press, work on that skill and build that strength where we're actually getting that volume in with that specific exercise that we're trying to get better in, and the same programming principles or the same execution of the lift, that standard tempo and everything. So we'll just go bench press right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do this pause bench press with a triple. So we're going to go times 3, and this is maximal. So I'll just put in brackets maximal. Very good, very good. Okay, so we have that pause bench press times 3 reps, maximal, so that's the most weight we'll be able to lift with proper technique, of course. And then here what we're going to do is I have kind of a neat setup how I want to do my back off work. So we're going to go 5 by 5, and we're going to take it at a percentage of, I believe I wanted to start at 80, we'll start at 80%, and in the later videos we can refine it more if needed, but we'll go start at 5%, or 5 by 5 at 80%, and then at 80% means 80% of 1 rep max. So if I was doing this for somebody else, I'd put at 1 hour, or at 80% 1 RM, but because I know what that means, I'm just going to put at 80% for myself. And of course what we're going to do is we're going to monitor how we're doing with this. So if we have to change it up as we actually execute it, that's great. A program gives us a good general guideline. The more experience we have, the more we're able to hit that nail right on the head. So I'm comfortable with this, but of course there will be probably some little adjustments here and there throughout the program that have to be made that have to be made, but we'll talk about that later on in this series. So that'll be good for our first exercise. So now our resistance exercise. What I really want to do is I want to do a slow eccentric bench press. So I find one of the things that, that'll be our secondary resistance exercise. Let's find out our first assistance. What do I want to do? Let's see. For the first assistance exercise, let's see. So we have something here in our pause bench to work on that lockout, or to work on coming off of the chest. So what I think we're going to do here is we're going to work on, we'll do, trying to think. I'm either thinking of doing a pin press to work on the lockout, so like a pin press starting at about halfway up the range of motion and then just doing the rep to lock it out, or doing a pin press full range of motion but putting the pins below, so it's really going to work on turning on those muscle fibers in the bottom portion of the lift, so that'll help with getting out of the hole of the lift. I think what I'm going to do is I will do the pin press for the lockout, since we do have something here with our maximal bench press with the pause to work on getting out of the bottom of the bench. So here we'll go halfway pin bench press, and then what this will do for us is it'll help us work on the lockout portion of that lift. So typically with assistance exercise, I go just a little bit higher in reps because I want to work on the skill and get that repetition in, but still heavy of enough weight that it's actually going to help us build strength efficiently in this specific range of motion and for this specific portion of the lift. So what we'll do is, we've done 5x5 here, so we'll take the volume back a little bit. 4 sets still helps us get in some good skill of it, and we'll go 4x6. So we'll just go 1 rep up for now. 4x6, and we won't go any percent of the 1 rep max since it's a different variation, so you can't really compare that. That's like comparing apples to oranges, because we have different strengths in different portion of the lifts. So for me, when I'm looking at how I program the intensity, how much weight I'm using for a lift, that's an assistance exercise that isn't basically the exact same lift. I don't like to use percent of 1 rep max because maybe somebody has a certain 1 rep max, but they're weaker in the lockout portion, so they're going to use percent of the 1 rep max for a lift or for an exercise that really only develops the lockout portion of that, of the exercise, so it's going to throw the whole boat off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go reps in reserve, and then that's how we can gauge how heavy we're working, and we can progressively overload off that. So we're going to go 4x6, and we'll start it off with 3 reps in reserve, so still pretty heavy, and this will allow us to not be going to our max right away, leaving no room for progressive overload, but still pretty heavy that we can get in that groove with technique, and we can have a good base to build off of, and then we can kind of progress as we go on, and we have room to manipulate, increase weight, and manipulate the reps and sets as well. So you'll see that once we program down here. Okay, so there we go. So now we're going to go secondary assistance. So now this is where I'm going to implement the dumbbell bench press. So now secondary assistance is something that might that might not look quite the same as the standard exercise, but it still has lots of specific carryover to it. So for me in this exercise, the exercise is going to look similar overall with the movement pattern, but it's going to be quite different in the fact that it's going to be performed unilaterally with dumbbells instead of a barbell. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a slow eccentric dumbbell press. And I'm saying slow eccentric because I find when I'm doing my standard barbell bench press, I can oftentimes get out of position on the way down, and it throws off my groove and the efficiency of the lift. So I want to do a slow eccentric dumbbell bench press because those dumbbells are going to make me have to stabilize more because it's a unilateral movement. Each arm has to stabilize that weight by itself, so that's going to help. And then the slow eccentric is going to help me really concentrate on keeping that proper position on the eccentric. So we have stability benefit of unilateral and the mental benefit of focusing on and developing that mind muscle connection and that muscle memory of keeping that weight in the same place on the eccentric. And of course, just developing that overall skill. Perfect practice makes perfect. I know it's not identical to the bench press, but it will still have a really strong carryover. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do 3 sets. Actually, you know what? Let's switch this around. So we're going to do 4 sets here. Over here, we're going to do 3 because this is heavier, still focusing on the strength side of things a fair bit. And then this over here is more of the skill side of things. So we're going to do 4 sets so we can get more practice in with this. And we're going to go a little bit lighter here. So we're going to go 3x8. So still generally heavy, but still a bit more reps so we can focus more on the skill. And I really want to focus on the skill at the start. So we're going to take it even further to 4 reps in reserve there. So those are the first 3 exercises that we're programming. So this is really the meat and potato strength stuff. So we have our primary strength exercise here, and then we have something that's really pretty nice and heavy, super specific to that first exercise. And then we have our secondary exercise here, secondary assistance exercise, I should say, that works on a specific aspect relative to yourself that will help build up this primary bench press exercise. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the progressive overload programming for this. So here for pause bench press, we're going to go pause bench press, the same thing for this first maximal set, but we're going to do it times 2, so we're going to be moving more weight. So we're continuing to up that weight because that's where the most strength specific benefits stem from. Of course, always keeping proper technique and form. So again, still maximal here as it's highlighted. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go bench press. We're going to go 5x4. So we're going to drop that weight a little bit so we can increase the percentage. We're going to go 82.5%. Okay? And then here we're going to go pause bench press. And what we are going to do is we're going to go a single. So it's going to be a super heavy, of course, relative to me, proper form, proper technique with everything. I'm not going to say that every time. Just know that no matter what I'm saying, it's always in the context of proper form, safe technique, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go times 1, as heavy as we can go. And then, so that's going to get a really heavy training stimulus in for us. And again, that's going to be a pause bench press. So we pause it on the bottom for probably about 2 to 3 seconds. I'll put those specifics in there as we roll this program out. Then we drive up. So that's really going to help work on the portion of the bench press where we're getting that bar off the chest. And then what we're going to do for our back off work is going to go 5x3 at 85%. So again, we're lowering that rep range so we can continue to increase the weight. And then so we'll go over here and program this. So we'll go halfway pin bench press. We have 3x6. So we're still going to do the same thing, except now we're going to do it at 2 reps in reserve. We're going to keep the same rep range. So that 2 reps in reserve now allows us to increase that weight a little bit. So we'll go here, and we'll go here, and then there. So as you can tell, we don't have a specific percentage to know the specific weight we should be doing. So that's why, and I must say I'm terrible for this. The last 2 to 3 programs, I haven't really even tracked what I've been doing. I have a pretty good idea, so I still will be able to apply progressive overload pretty well, but not nearly as efficiently as I should have been. So for this program, I am 100% going to take my own advice, get a notebook, and be writing down what I'm doing each workout. Because for something like this, where we don't have that specific percentage that we're working off of, here we have a specific weight we're starting at, and then we have to know which weight we started at so we can see where our goal would be to go the next training session with these exercises so we can progressively overload. Not every training session, not every subsequent training session is going to allow you to progressively overload necessarily in the way that you want to. Most of them, if you're doing them, if you're programming for yourself properly, should allow you to do so, but there's going to be the odd one like you're just not feeling this. So maybe that's when you switch it up and you do your speed day on a day you're not feeling it, or whatever the case may be, or just kind of hold off and maybe do a lesser form of progression, like a slow eccentric instead, or even just altogether kind of just say, okay, you know what, this isn't the day for me. We'll just keep it at the same right now, and we'll make sure we get that progressive overload in next week. So that's what we're doing here. So we have 3x6 at 2 reps in reserve, so that'll allow us to increase the weight since it goes at 3 reps in reserve, at 2 reps in reserve. And then on this third week, we're going to go at 1 rep in reserve. And then here for the slow eccentric dumbbell press, what we're going to do is we're going to use weights to increase. So we're not going to manipulate reps in reserve. We're not going to manipulate sets. I really want to focus on this technique. The skill 4 reps in reserve is still going to allow us to go somewhat heavy. It's not going to be so light that we're just throwing it around. We'll still have to focus. We'll still have to concentrate. We'll still have to exert ourselves. But we're going to increase a rep to focus more on that skill of things. And then we'll go here, and we'll go 4x10. 4x10 at still 4 reps in reserve. So that's the first 3 weeks for those really strength training specific exercises down pat. So now we have our secondary exercise here, just overall a little bit more fluff stuff. So now what I'm going to try to do with this is it'll still be with that primary bench press exercise in mind, but it'll be a little bit more focused towards a specific muscle group to build up its strength, and probably size 2. But ideally we're going to pick this in a way that allows us to relate it to that primary exercise, the bench press, to help develop it. So I'm trying to see what we have so far. So we have a good off the chest exercise here, so that'll be this is off the chest exercise here, but there's not a whole lot of volume with it. This is triceps, mainly LOCO with a fair bit of volume. This is just kind of whole skill. So what I'm going to program here is I'm actually going to program a shoulder specific exercise to help work on this bench press to help build up those shoulders. So I'm trying to think what would be a good option for me to do. Let's see, what's a good one. I don't want to go too heavy with it since we've already done a lot of heavy training and a lot of stuff that'll demand on the shoulders, but I want to get something for the shoulders that'll just help build them up overall, some size, maybe some speed, rate of force production, that sort of thing. So what I'm actually going to do is, I'm trying to think what would be the best option. I'm actually going to take a page out of Athlean-X's book. So Jeff Cavaliere is a really well-known strength coach and strength and conditioning coach from YouTube. He's a super knowledgeable person, and he has this exercise. I don't know what it's called, but you basically take a cable and you use your hips, your obliques, your core, and your torso and your shoulders, and you take a weight and you kind of turn it and push. So I feel like that momentum, that power that we're generating from our hips and from our core is really going to help get some speed going, where we can really lock it out with the shoulders at the end. So I think that's going to help build up some good speed in our shoulders, help with that bench press. So that'll be a good exercise here. So I'm just going to call it cable speed cross for now, and I'll find a more accurate name after. So the whole point of this is, again, we're still focusing on assistance here, but now it's a little bit more volume-based work. So if we're still going for speed, it won't be necessarily that hypertrophy specific, so it's kind of in the middle, but it'll still be more beneficial than not for the helping the bench press there. So we're still focusing more on the assistance side of things, even though it's not a specific assistance exercise. So we're going to be doing this. I don't want to go too crazy heavy on the volume, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to focus on 2 really quality sets. This is also unilateral movement, so it's going to so there's still going to be more overall work being applied to that muscle, and we don't want to be in the gym forever here. And we don't need to be 2 sets will be good for this. So we're going to go 2 sets times 10/arm. So that's going to allow us to work on the skill. Because it's a cable exercise, I don't mind going a little higher on the reps, even though we're focusing on speed, because it's not going to be crazy heavy to begin with. And we're going to go, we're going to make a little asterisk here. We're not going to use percent of 1 or max or a reps in reserve, since that's not really too applicable here, because it's not a primary compound exercise and it's not going anywhere close to failure really, because we're focusing on speed. So I'm just going to put a little note here, speed reps. So that's good. And then tertiary and 4th exercise. For this, what I'm really going to be focusing on is just getting in some volume to help maintain that muscle mass and just help keep those muscles topped up as far as their volume, to keep that hypertrophy, to keep the muscle mass, and maybe even grow a little bit more, just making sure their strength's good to go. But that's really not the focus of these 2 exercises. It's really get that volume and maintain that muscle mass, maybe even grow a little bit. Especially since we've got some heavy training stimulus here, so that's nothing to cry about when we're trying to grow muscle. So, and the other thing is, when we're growing muscle mass, that typically helps us with better leverages. So, for example, if we grow our biceps in the bench press, when we come down here, those biceps might provide better leverage for the forearms, so they'll be able to work off each other to help get that bar off the chest. So, let's see, I'm trying to think. We've already pumped the shoulders and triceps a fair bit this workout. Generally, I would just stick with shoulder and tricep exercises, stick with the whole theme of things. But what I think I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to do some bicep work. So we'll go, let's see, already gone pretty heavy. I like the standard bicep curl, so we'll just do supinated standard bicep curl, or a standard dumbbell curl. Get rid of the standard in there, we don't need that. Supinated dumbbell curl. I say supinated just because I feel a better mind muscle connection with that. That's just specific to me. And we'll get some good volume in there. We'll go 4 by 10, 10 to 12, and we'll go at reps in reserve 3. And this will just be standard kind of bodybuilding programming. So we'll go have a rep range and then have a certain reps in reserve, and then we'll apply progressive overload in some way. And then for this 4th exercise, I'm going to work on those rear delts. So this is going to, number 1, having strong rear delts helps with overall shoulder health. Helps keep them in a strong position on the bench press from the backside. So that's why I'm going to be doing this here. And it's also not a shoulder or tricep. Also not a shoulder or tricep exercise, because we've already hit those pretty well. So it's just a good way to kind of fit in volume in ways that make the most sense within the program. So we're just going to do your standard face pull here. Face pulls, and we'll keep it. How many sets? I don't want this workout to be crazy long. So we'll put it at, we'll keep this at 3 quality sets. I like that. So we'll go 3 by 10. We'll just keep it right at 10. And we're going to go at RIR4 here, so reps in reserve of 4, because we really want to focus on that quality, those quality reps. And I'll actually do pause face pulls to get a good contraction in that state, help reinforce that position even more, that proper shoulder position retracted like this. So we'll go at RIR4. So now we got to apply the progressive overload here. So what we'll do is we'll go 2x11/arm, again speed reps, and we'll go 2x12/arm, again speed reps, and then supinated dumbbell curl. What I'm going to do is I put 4x10 to 12. I'm going to try to stick to that 10 part of that. Whoops. Try to stick to that 10 part of that I say. If I went to 12, I would just make it a 12 to 15 rep range then. And then, so what we'll do here is we'll go, so we have 4x10, 12. We'll keep that the same, and we'll make sure we have RIR2. So if I go to 11 and it's still not quite the progression I was looking for, and it ends up being reps in reserve 2, that's fine. Or if I have to increase the weight a little bit, that's fine. But dumbbells are tough to increase weights because they're unilateral, and they really only go up by 5 pounds once you get to like a 20-pound dumbbell. So I have a feeling like even at that 4x11 reps, if I'm pushing hard with this reps in reserve 3 here, then that 4x11 will end up being something like a reps in reserve of 2. And then we'll keep this same here. We'll go RI1, same thing. So I'm going to shoot for 4x12 and land somewhere in there. We can manipulate things if we need to. Let's see, that's not the one. We'll go here, we'll go here. So pause face pulls, we'll do the same thing. So we're going to go 11, and then this will be 3. So if we have to increase the weight, that's good. That's probably beneficial because I want to increase the strength of that position. That retracted shoulder position, help build up those rear delts and help lay that strong foundation for the bench press on the back side with your rear delts, traps, and back. We'll focus more on the traps and back in other sessions that we programmed for. So we'll switch this now down to RIR2 for that progressive overload. So that's the first 3 weeks of the strength program programmed for. So now what I'm kind of torn on here is if we do a deload and then we do another 3 weeks and then we deload and then we do another 3 weeks and then we go for a PR, maybe go a little less on here. I tend to not like to deload every 3 weeks. I find that to be a pretty inefficient use of time. I don't think I'm quite at that spot now where that is something that I really need to be doing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we do have another episode of this where we're going to be refining things. So let's go ahead and put a deload in here for now. And then we'll program that more specifically after when we figure out what we're going to do with that. So then we'll go week 5 strength. So now I'm going to change out this maximal exercise. So instead of a pause bench press, what we'll do is we'll go slow eccentric bench press. So I mentioned that's what we're working on here with the slow eccentric dumbbell press. So now we're going to move that skill over to the actual specific exercise to help reiterate that skill. So we're going to go slow eccentric bench press. And usually I would really like to program some sort of banded move exercise here. But we have a speed day where bands are going to be super helpful. So I'm going to save the bands for that day there. So we'll go slow eccentric bench press. And we'll go dash, same thing, times 3 reps, maximal. And we'll use that same progression scheme as we roll it out through here. And then we'll go, so now what we want to do is for our standard bench press, I am going to do the sets down to 4, reps down to 4, so it'll be a 4x4, and we'll start this at, I don't only want to go up 2.5%, so we'll start this at 85%. This will actually work really well. We'll go here, so again, slow eccentric, bench press, maximal. So we'll go, nope, not times 32, times 2. And then we'll go 4x3, so we'll lower that rep, allows us that rep range. That'll allow us to increase the weight a little bit. So now we'll go 87.5%. Okay, so let's see. That's all fine and dandy, so that's good. And then we'll go another slow eccentric bench press, maximal, times 1. So that'll be your heaviest there for that top set, that super maximal set. That'll be pre back off work. So we'll do that, and then so we'll do this, and then we'll go into back off work. So 4x3. Now we'll drop it down to double at 90%. That's a perfect progression scheme because typically triples at 90% is really close to that failure point or really approaching on the maximal point. So right now at week 7 of what's going to be a 12-week program, a double at 90%, I really like that position that we're in. Allows us to progress very well throughout the rest of that program and really slide in how we want to in that end to hit that PR. So that's good there. And then we'll go, so this is still focused on control. This is a skill still, so we'll work on that after. So now what we'll do is for that assistance exercise, I'm going to focus on something now that is, I'm going to flip it. So here we have assistance, and we focused on the triceps here with that halfway up pin. So we'll start it halfway up and go to lockout. That's more tricep dominant. And over here, kind of further down, it's not a super specific assistance exercise to the bench press. Definitely not as specific as this is. So it was for the shoulders though. So now what we'll do is to kind of give them even, so we're bringing them both up. They're pretty similar for me. What I'll do, or shoulders and triceps overall, are pretty similar to me, for me. So what I'll do is I'll move shoulders over here for an assistance exercise. So I'll just do a standard pin press. So it'll start at the bottom, but the bar will be off pin, so I'll have to force those muscles to activate quickly to move that weight. So it'll help work on the portion of the bench press getting off of our chest. And that starts with the shoulders, so that'll be a really specific assistance exercise for the bench press, starting with the shoulders, so we're giving them enough emphasis and enough assistance work. And we'll just do the same thing we did here, it's just a more shoulder-specific variation. 3 by 6 at 3 RIR. 3 by 6. And we'll keep the reps the same as we did before. We'll go at 2 IR. Or no, this will be at 2 reps in reserve. That allows us to increase the weight. This last week here for this specific programming block will be at 1 rep in reserve. And then what kind of skill do I want to work on here? Let's see. Skill, I think I'm not generally a proponent of the feet up bench press. I find it's really misconstrued with what it's actually used for and beneficial for. But for working on a specific skill, as far as just really mustering that strength with the muscle you are using to press instead of getting that leg drive in, that is one application that I don't mind, and I haven't used it myself before, so I believe that can be beneficial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a feet up, or do I want to just do an incline dumbbell bench press? I'm going to do an incline dumbbell bench, and I do say this because the incline position doesn't really allow our legs to contribute much with leg drive, so we still get that benefit, and that still works a little bit more on the shoulders here, and then we'll just make this really tricep specific, and maybe we'll add some sort of other tricep movement over here, but we'll see. We'll make that up later. But this will be a little bit more shoulder specific, but again, takes out that leg drive, works a different plane, so the different muscle groups being activated differently. Helps work on the overall stability. And actually what I do like about this is it's kind of a hybrid shoulders and triceps exercise, so it's still a good skill with minimal leg drive, but also helps even out the work that the shoulders and triceps are getting, I believe. And yeah, that's what I believe. So for that, we'll go ahead and program. We'll do the same thing. We'll go 4 by 8. And instead, we'll go a little bit closer to failure here just to get some good progressive overload. I know it's not the same exercise, but it's somewhat similar. And it's just that overall how heavy we're training really that I'm focused on. And we kept that at 4 reps in reserve, so we'll keep this here since we still have more progressive overload options, another block of this. So we'll go 4 reps in reserve, so that was 3, so we'll go 4 by 8. We'll keep the reps in reserve the same, 4 by 9. We'll go 4 by 10. Should be able to increase those reps well while still being able to complete the sets fully. We'll probably end up dropping those. It'll probably end up making them harder and harder. And that's still pretty heavy training even starting. That's still pretty heavy training starting at that 3 reps in reserve, so I am good with that. Then for triceps, we're just going to do a standard triceps extension. And we'll do this same thing. I don't want to do a ton of volume with this just to get some good, just to get a good amount of solid work there. We'll go 2 by 10, and we'll do that bilateral so we can train that relatively heavy. Just because that is a somewhat specific exercise relative to the bench press, as far as the triceps are really main contributors, so we can train this exercise a bit heavy, help build their strength a little bit, should have good carryover to the bench press. And this is going to be speed reps, so we'll put an RIR of 3. And I don't usually progressively overload tricep work via weight, but since this isn't really that focused for hypertrophy and still somewhat of a solid assistance exercise for the bench press, keep the reps the same, lower the reps in reserve, so that'll allow us to increase weight, because if we're keeping the reps the same but we're going closer to failure, something has to give, so that means we have to be increasing weight if we're keeping reps the same but getting more difficult and going closer to failure. So go 2x10 at 3 reps in reserve, 2x10 at 2 reps in reserve, and we'll go 2x10 at 1 rep in reserve there. And then another bicep exercise. I actually really like this bicep exercise, so we'll just roll with that. This is more hypertrophy specific, so keeping it pretty consistent to, this is hypertrophy specific, this exercise, so keeping that consistent for progressive overload there is a good thing, because that's the main concern there. So we'll keep that. And so now we'll go back to the same thing. So we'll go 4x10 to 12. I'll try to stick to that 10 range at 3 reps in reserve. But this time, now that I've built up and I've progressively overloaded, I'll restart it, but I'll start at a higher weight. So it'll still allow us to be at that same rep range and reps in reserve because we're using a higher weight. We'll use that same progression scheme. 4x10 to 12 at 3 reps in reserve, 4x10 to 12 at 2 reps in reserve. So this will be more like 4x10. That'll be more like 4x11. 4x10 to 12 at 1 rep in reserve, and this one here will be more like 4x12. And then face pulls, I still like that exercise, so we'll go ahead and keep that, and we'll do that same scheme there. Same programming scheme, so we'll do that same thing. So we'll go 3x10. Actually, we'll make that rep in reserve a little bit lower, so now we'll get a good amount of weight increase to help focus on strength in that retracted position that I really like for the bench press and just overall posture, which is, you always want to have that good posture. So go 2 reps in reserve will be here. We'll go 1 rep in reserve will be here. So what we did was we had 4, 3, 2 for reps in reserve up here. Now we're going 3, 2, 1 reps in reserve up here. So because we're restarting back to that same rep range, we'd already be increasing weight, but now we've wanted it to get closer to failure this set, so now we'll be able to increase weight even more. So that'll be beneficial to help really have that nice heavy training stimulus. And then tentatively deload here. I'll just make this go by quicker. Okay, so that's all I wanted to program for today. This 4 weeks here will be really specific towards that ramping up for that PR. So we'll do another episode on that, probably with all of the exercises together. So this doesn't end up being a 20-episode series. This will take longer than I expected. Maybe next time when I do an episode like this, I'll have them pre-put in, so I can just go over and explain more than just this, but I do like this way as well, so I'll have to see. So yeah, that's how I'm programming so far for the heavy upper day, what exercises I'm choosing, rep ranges, reps in reserve, or how heavy I'm going relative to 1 rep max, and how I'm doing progressive overload. So help me just going through my whole process of how I program, has helped you guys, maybe give you guys some ideas of how you can program for yourself, and just give you some general knowledge about what it means to strength train and what effective strength training programming looks like. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, I really appreciate giving it a like. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you want more videos like this, if you want to continue watching this series to further your knowledge, please do hit that subscribe button, because this is going to be a really helpful series to help gain knowledge around strength training. So yeah, thanks again everybody. I really appreciate the support and your viewership, and take care, and I'll see you back here for the next episode. Quick note before we leave here, I know this video ended up being pretty long and we only did the first 8 of 12 weeks for one workout. Don't worry, they're not going to be this long for every single workout. The first video that I did before this to lay the foundation, that was the first part of the series. This is going to be the second part of the series, and what I'll do is I'll make another shorter 10-15 minute video where I have everything pre-filled in for the other ones and just kind of explain it quickly. So this will be the detailed version with lots of explanation, and then there'll be the other smaller one with the same part 2 of this series, where I just go over the rest of the workout. And then part 3 of the series, I'll do the last 4 weeks of this 12-week program here, and then I might make another smaller little video just to explain the rest of the workouts. And then part 4 of the series should only need 1 video, and that'll just be to put the finishing touches on the program. So thank you all very much for watching, and I look forward to you being here for future parts of the series.